Hey everyone, I'm Kristen Messerly and really excited to be interviewing Elizabeth Karwowski, who is the CEO of Get Credit Healthy. Elizabeth, did I say your name right?
You did.
Okay, great. I love your name. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so Elizabeth, why don't you share a little bit about what you do? I love your company. I think it is high impact. So share with us a little bit about that and your role.
We are a fintech organization, and we are. It's interesting. We're talking to someone from a bank that it will be a student partner of Get Credit Healthy, and they said that we're doing a paradigm shift in the market, right? So it's pretty cool how they explain what Get Credit Healthy is. We're really a lead recovery and database management tool. What does that mean, right? I mean, those are technical terms, but at the end of the day, we take non-qualified candidates that go to lending institutions and give them the needed resources through our technology and our nonprofit HUD counselors in order to become credit and financially qualified to purchase a home.
Yeah, I love the connection piece there. And since you are dealing with a lot of I want to talk about younger demographics and credit. I read a statistic recently that said, I think it was 42% of millennials struggle with poor credit. Is that something new? Has there been a shift in the way that millennials or Gen Z are approaching credit? And what are some of the challenges there?
Obviously, student loans have a major impact on credit, right? So that itself is impacting individuals. And from the ratios, the utilization of credit availability versus what is available for them. And it's just knowing how to handle it, right? A lot of people coming out of school, I like to say there's a lot of tools out there. There's, for credit monitoring, and we get all these alerts, and it's fascinating, right? And I always stress these are great tools, but do we really understand how they play a role in the market in order for you to qualify? And what I've realized dealing with the younger generation, I like to say I'm included too, but realistically, I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. And so there is a big difference. Now, the big difference between when I graduated versus now is that there are tools available, which make it slightly more confusing, because of the fact that when you're getting these tools, the credit scores that you're actually receiving are not FICO scores. They might be Vantage scores, or they might be simulated scores. And these are all fantastic tools. But for purposes of buying a home, lenders still use the FICO scoring models. And understanding that is quite challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of confusion around what kind of what is impacting their credit score. Do you see while they have access to so many tools, do you have any idea on like what kind of education level they have around credit, or kind of where they're getting their information?
I think online, right? Like everyone else many times. And again, it's just becoming confusing. And then it becomes so confusing that people are like, I give up. I'm not going to deal with it. Right. And I don't know if you come across, I have younger friends that they're like, they're the ones that text me and they're like, what does this mean? Yeah, forget it. I don't want to deal with it. And so, one thing we did when we were even creating some of our processes, I went to younger generation. I'm like, if I could have those graduating college, right, understand the simplicity and break it down of how credit benefits them and how it works, then I think we're on the right path. So what we've done is really break it down as what are your problems, what are the solutions, and some action steps you need to take, because some of it might just be behavior. Let me give you a perfect example, right? We changed insurance, so I canceled my insurance, and literally I received a bill yesterday for $66. And I'm like, how is this possible? I got a check for $66 in the mail, or $62, whatever it is. And now they're sending me a bill again, right? And, the normal person would be like, well, they must have just made a mistake and I'll throw it away, right? I don't know if you would do that. You'd be like, yeah, okay,
Absolutely.
I'll throw it away. Well, throwing that away can actually create a huge problem for you in the near future, because they could sell it off to a collection agency. That collection agency all of a sudden reports you negative on your credit, which can drop your score 60, 70, 80 points, just because of a mistake, not done by me, but because I didn't take that extra step to try to resolve it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I actually have a huge problem with that, because I see all mail as junk mail. I forget that, you know, those are serious things that come through. So I had something just the other day, also $32 that had
Yeah.
gotten sent to a collection
Yeah.
agency. And I'm like, man, how do I know that I thought I paid all of those
Yes.
medical things, you know,
Yes.
any little thing is impacting my credit score. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And then you're like at a panic, and many times you don't even know, or you'll get an alert. Again, those tools are great because you might get an alert, something was adjusted on your credit score. And then you're like, well, how do I deal with this? And then the other problem is that if you pay it, right, which if it's yours, I always like to say you have to come to a solution, and you have to find that solution, whether it's a settlement, whether it's a payment, but there's ways of doing that, right? And if you pay it right away without understanding what that means for your credit, it actually could drop your credit score, because it's a recent activity, you have it paid, and now your credit score dropped, right? And so here you are trying to do good, and again, it's not understanding the system, and we still don't really teach the system. So our focus within Get Credit Healthy was to give the tools not only for our nonprofits, but also for our for those that are coming within the platform to get that education, because those little things, right? The little, like you said, you get the mail, you're like, and you travel all the time. I mean, we both travel, and then, you know, you're screwed. Literally. I mean, then you're like, oh my God, you know, and it is. And then you know, I mean, it's frustration. It's the common emotions that I would have, you would have, that you're like, I just have a collection for $60 on my report, dropped my score. Now I'm trying to get something, and my interest is high because my score is in the 600 versus the 700. And, you know, I mean, it just is, it's not fun, right? It's not a fun place to be. So,
and one thing that I love is that you are bringing together nonprofits and lenders. And that's something, I mean, we work at Cultural Outreach a lot on that piece, just making the connection, but your tool actually does that.
yes.
In working with the nonprofits and housing counselors, do you see any kind of challenges there in the nonprofits reaching the markets that they need to reach, or any challenge from consumers to getting to the nonprofits?
You know, I mean, I always like to say, I think we're bridging a gap that has been existent for years. It's always been, right? The nonprofits have the heart to do good for the consumers, but they don't have the resources and capital to actually take and improve their systems, provide additional trainings for the consumers, right? And what we've done, and I know you've done some research too, is that through technology, the efficiency level goes up, right? And so what we have noticed is that our technology now, nonprofits that we're able to help maybe 4 or 5 a day could actually triple the amount of individuals they're helping, because they're no longer are doing the data entry, the manual work that is very time consuming, but now it's the capacity of the tool to actually help them. So the focus is like this, right? The focus is really to give the needed coaching for the consumers so that they can understand it versus trying to read it on the internet or in a very detailed, you know, what we still do a strategic action plan, but really explain what that means, and then have it, you know, like I always like to say, we always have this available, right? So have it where it's responsive to your phone, and no longer does someone, whether it's me, you, or low to moderate income families that we've helped, that everything can be done from your phone.
Yeah, and like you said, I think
for millennials, right?
Yeah. And I think that gap has been such a problem, because you're working with the same markets. A lot of people are trying to, you know, expand their reach, and they could do that through the nonprofit connections, but nonprofits a lot of times really struggle with modernizing. So I love that you're able to bridge that gap in that way.
And
So
for lenders, I mean, the
yeah,
cool part is that, you know, the lenders are getting a new book of business, right? So, you know, it's really what we call our tool as GCH 360. It's a nice circle. And just like you and I experienced, right? If I didn't have the needed education and trust me, experience from years ago of actions to take right away when things happen, it could cause a lot of headache, right? And so, especially now, it's so easy that you could call your nonprofit, right? You could call your actual credit coach just like this and say, hey, I just received this. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do here? What actions should I take? And they draw everything out for you.
That's amazing. So my last question for you is, what actually brought you into this industry? You're clearly very passionate about it, and you know, what is your past experience? What drives that passion?
Yeah, great question, right? I mean, well, I come from the consulting background, so I'm always curious about things. How do they work? What's going on? But then one of my clients was a mortgage broker. I became top producer. I actually fell into it and then opened up a brokerage firm. When I sold to my previous partner back in 2007, one thing that I was always curious about was credit. And I still remember people would say I could help my clients, right? And I said, fantastic, because these are good people, right? That just don't have the needed guidance. And I didn't have the guidance. I didn't know, right? I didn't understand the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the debt collections practices, all these other things that protect you and me as consumers. I didn't understand that. And nor did I have the time, right? So I always look for the experts. The experts take care of the situation, keep me in the loop, make sure things are good, and then everyone's happy, right? Well, I realized that wasn't existent. And also, as you know, I personally experienced it. I went through a divorce in 2007, a divorce with my partner, a divorce with my actual partner, my ex-husband, and you know, things that they've done, which I co-signed, I didn't realize, right? So I'm a client of my own program because, you know, those were hard lessons that you're like, oh my goodness, how would I know? You wouldn't, right? And so I spent a lot of money on attorneys. I spent a lot of money on all of this crazy stuff. And I said, you know what? I hope if I could help one family, two families, three families not experience the headache that I experienced, then I'm doing good. And, you know, I'm excited to say we've helped quite a few thousands of families. And, you know, at the end of the day, they're actually achieving home ownership. So it's a pretty cool feeling. And that's what drives me, right? Every day when I talk to some of my executives, you know, I love to see the stories and the success stories that come across my desk every single day of how we helped, whether it's 5 families, 10 families, even one family. We've done good.
Well, that is beautiful. I'm so happy to hear about your success and your passion for this, and it's so needed in our world. So thank you so much for sharing with us.